Well, at a landmark summit co-chaired by Prime Minister Modi and hosted by the French President Emmanuel Macron in Paris, global leaders tackled governance, equity and sustainability in artificial intelligence. AI, remember, is very much the future, also digital infrastructure. India and France also have a crucial strategic partnership. We'll be talking about that in a moment, but first let's listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say.
Loss of jobs is AI's most feared disruption. But history has shown that work does not disappear due to technology. Its nature changes and new types of jobs are created. Friends, India has successfully built a digital public infrastructure for over 1.4 billion people at a very low cost. And we have made digital commerce democratic and accessible to all. This vision is the foundation of India's national AI mission. We have one of the world's largest AI talent pools. India is building its own large language model considering our diversity.
Well, we're going to be talking very closely about AI in a moment, but I'm also joined now by my colleague Paridhi Bhanot, who's been tracking the Prime Minister in France. There's this critical strategic relationship with France, which India enjoys. How much of that came up, various aspects, defense deals, economic ties, how much of all of that, nuclear energy, came up in talks between the Indian and French sides?
Absolutely, Rishi. It's in fact been a really hectic day, not just for France, but also for India, right? Given the fact that we were co-chair of the summit, a lot was riding on us. There was a lot of responsibility. As far as France and India are concerned, of course, there have been talks. There have been talks between the two nations about artificial intelligence for starters. But, the truly detailed conversations, the bilateral conversations that India and France are going to have, that's possibly going to take place later today evening because the French president is hosting a dinner just for the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. And that's going to be happening in Marseille. So I believe that is when the crux of the discussions, other than the AI summit, are going to unfold. Having said that, Vishnu, when we talk about India and France, as far as the AI summit is concerned, India has, of course, given its unequivocal support to France during the summit, and also in the declaration that has now been signed. In fact, the Prime Minister, after the summit ended, he put out his concluding remarks, and he said that he welcomes the decision to set up the AI Foundation and the Council for Sustainable AI. And also, while saying that, he said that he assures President Macron of India's full support. To add to that, in fact, there could be good news for India because India has, in fact, very happily said that they would be elated to host the next summit. And that possibly was already an inkling, given the fact that India was the co-chair for the event. So there were a lot of yogis and tantrics who were saying that India could possibly be the host for the next AI summit, which takes place perhaps in 2026. But, as far as India and France are concerned, they, of course, have stood by each other when it comes to AI, when it comes to developing these technologies and cooperating fully and unequivocally.
All right, super, Paridhi. Thanks very much for joining us. The Prime Minister now heads to the United States. We'll talk about that in a little while, but I'd like to spend a little bit more time talking about AI and the significance of this summit. I'm now joined by Vidushi Marda, Director of Partnerships at AI Collaborative. Vidushi was actually there, or is in Paris, where she was part of this AI summit. Ananay Batra, founder and CEO of ListNR.ai, and Paramdeep Singh, co-founder of ShortHills.ai, joins us as well. Thank you all very much for being with us. Vidushi, a lot of what you focus on and a lot of what came up was on the themes of openness and accountability. So could you tell us a little bit more about how the AI collaborative believes that that is the future of AI, openness and accountability.
Gladly, and thank you for having me. We're at this moment where, bigger is better seems to be the theme for all AI conversations, but also it's an important moment to take stock about who has benefited from this technology so far. And, you don't have to look very far to know that it's been disproportionately enjoyed by a few people, and the harms have been disproportionately felt by another group of people. And the way that we reshape the future of AI is to think about how can we make the possibilities made, of this infrastructure and of this technology available and open to all. So when it comes to data, the biggest bottleneck to AI progress today is not compute power, as the media headlines sometimes lead us to believe, but rather high quality data. And the AI Foundation, which is called Current AI, which is also one of the main deliverables coming out of this summit, is going to focus on making high quality data sets available in particular domains to champion the public interest, including health and science. And when it comes to openness, it's really critical for this moment to ensure that AI infrastructures are open to all. That when we build tools to keep us safe online, when we build tools to ensure that safety is built into AI systems, those are available to all and not just a few labs in the global north. And so these are two fundamental building blocks of the AI Foundation or Current AI. And finally, when we talk about accountability, it's a really mature field with many brilliant people having done amazing work on technical accountability, on accountability from a social lens. But it's time to make sure that all of these brilliant parts are greater than the sum of their parts. And so thinking about how do we make the different pieces of the jigsaw puzzle work together, how do we put in place accountability infrastructure is also a fundamental commitment coming out of the summit today.
Anane, I must confess, I'm an amateur when it comes to the use of AI. I use it quite extensively of late when I research my programs. I find a lot of the data is inaccurate, some of it very good. But a lot of people who are just getting used to using AI, I use Grok because I find it easiest to use, sort of see it as a Google++. So you used to Google for information, you now AI for information. But what Vidushi is talking about and what all of you are talking about is something a lot more profound. So in terms of applications, we say medical, we say agriculture, great, sounds wonderful. But can you give me specific examples of how AI in, let's say, 3-4 years from now will help specific groups of people in specific fields? Could you give me examples?
Yeah, for sure. So, see, when it comes to medicine, right, I think there are some clear advantages of using AI versus not using AI. So, for example, drug discovery, right, one of the biggest ones that we have here. We have certain countries that have used AI to develop mRNA vaccines for cancer treatment, which I think is a big win for all of us, right, for all of humanity, right? And see, when it comes to other areas as well, for example, let's say agriculture or legal or law, right? There are also other certain advantages that AI can help us achieve. For example, autonomous tractors, right? This is one example in agriculture that is going to come up in the next 3-4 years, and it's probably going to go mainstream in the next 5 to 10 years, right? So that's there. A lot of the manual labor work that agricultural folks have to do right now would be automated. For example, seed planting, a bunch of other things, right? Usage of autonomous drones using AI in agriculture, that is also another thing that will be very popular in the next 3 to 4 years, right? So these are some of the things that come to mind when you say medicine and agriculture. But see, besides these two fields, right, there are also other advantages and also other areas where AI could help quite a lot, right? So, for example, just in general, content generation, which is something that we do for a living, right? Content generation has gotten a lot better when it comes to generating new ideas, even at scale. And even generating new content at scale, right? So these are just some of the few things that I think AI could really, really help us wrap up.
So by content generation, that's interesting because, again, that's something that people relate to. I can ask AI to possibly design music for me. I can ask AI to design paintings for me, or Grok already does that. It animates, ideas in a sense, but perhaps we'll get video as well. Is that what you're saying essentially, Ananay, that content would be audio-visual and generated by AI?
Right, right. So the idea here is to augment human creativity, not to replace it. I don't think we can replace human creativity ever, right? This is one of those things that is key to any of the tools that are out there. So even our tool, which is more on the AI audio and AI video side of things, you can use it to generate content at scale, create a lot of high quality content without spending a lot of hours editing, hosting, distributing, etc., etc. So that's essentially what I'm talking about, right? A lot of the mundane stuff has been cut off. So it essentially does save a lot of time for content creators, and also helps new content creators make content easily. This is one of the major points that we're addressing it.
Paramdeep Singh, in terms of what India is looking to do with AI, the Prime Minister did say that India is looking at our own large language model, perhaps going into the future. How is that something that would benefit many in our country?
See, given the diversity of sort of India, it makes sense to start developing our own large language model. So there are two aspects to it. One, diversity. That means focus on our own people and develop our own large language model. The two is dependence on an outside party to provide us with the large language models. So AI as such is going to be sort of a key differentiator as we move forward. And there it would be absolutely necessary to be self-reliant as far as AI models are concerned. Now, till about a few weeks back, it was very difficult for us to say that we were going to develop our own large language model that would make sense. But you see DeepSeek. So given the sort of amount of compute they've spent on developing a model that has really changed the game. So I definitely believe this has opened up the arena where India again has a good chance at developing something that's going to change the world. Now, given our talent and again sort of the compute requirement not being so large, I think India has a real shot at developing something that's going to change the world.
Which is what?
So for example, let's say right now, if you are dependent on, let's say, OpenAI, which is a closed model, you have practically no control over the kind of information that it has and the information that it can give out. Now, having our own language model would give us the ability to sort of control the overall outcome that comes from the model. Now, whatever application you build on top of that model would really be sort of the underlying layer for that model, for that application has to be the large language model. So that control or whatever you want to do with that has to be with you. That cannot be with an outside party.
Right. Vidushi, in terms of this entire debate on should AI be free versus should AI be paid for, we've seen large companies in the West say that no, look, ultimately you need to pay for it. Again, in terms of generating quality, why do we assume that that is not the way forward?
I don't know if any assumption made about an incredibly complex field can be completely wrong or completely correct. But when it comes to this question of open versus closed, free versus paid, I think the central question that is actually a much more interesting question is who gets to control the direction and the nature and the distance of travel for AI innovation. For my part, and certainly for a large group of people, it shouldn't be controlled by 2 or 3 labs in the world. I think people should be able to build AI systems and use AI systems, without having exorbitant rates attached to it, because AI systems shape everyone's life, whether you live in San Francisco or in rural Bhutan. AI is shaping whether you get access to loans. It's shaping where your kids go to school. It's shaping what kind of healthcare you have access to. And so the role of public institutions and the public needs to be reclaimed in this entire AI conversation. And so it's not about, how much should we pay OpenAI to use systems. It's also, how can we empower communities? How can we empower people to build the kind of AI systems that they want, to use the kind of AI systems that they want, and also maybe to not use AI systems if they don't want that. And that requires a fundamental reshaping of this current conversation. It requires us to come together at a global and also a local level to think about what that might look like.
All right, but I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us.